I never imagined that the very person I trusted to save my marriage would become the reason it fell apart. But here I am, standing alone in our once perfect bedroom, clutching a single golden earring that shattered every illusion I had. My name is Grace, I'm 33 years old, and until recently I genuinely believed I had built a dream life. My husband, Alex, and I had been together since our early 20s. We met at a college party, a classic case of opposites attracting. Alex was charismatic, outgoing, the life of every gathering. I was quieter, more reserved, always observing from the sidelines. Yet from the very first night, Alex somehow saw me, really saw me, and made me feel like I was the only person in a crowded room. We got married shortly after graduation, optimistic and passionately in love. The early years were filled with adventure, weekend trips, cozy movie nights, and spontaneous road trips along the coast. We supported each other's dreams. Alex climbed the ranks as an engineer at a thriving tech firm, and I became an interior designer, eventually opening my own small but successful studio downtown. Our life felt balanced and full, especially when our daughter, Ava, was born 3 years ago. From the first moment I held her, our little family felt complete. Alex was ecstatic about becoming a father. He doted on Ava constantly, and watching their bond filled my heart with joy. But as time passed, the reality of parenthood began to strain our once solid marriage. Sleepless nights, exhausting workdays, and the constant juggling act of careers and childcare slowly replaced romantic dinners and lazy weekends. As Ava grew from an infant to a lively toddler, our conversations shifted from dreams and desires to grocery lists and daycare schedules. Alex began working longer hours, claiming pressure at work, while I felt increasingly overwhelmed managing my business and motherhood simultaneously. Our intimacy gradually faded, replaced by brief hugs, quick kisses goodbye, and routine texts about errands and household chores. Before I knew it, we'd become roommates rather than partners, two exhausted adults coexisting beneath the same roof. I missed Alex desperately, the laughter, the connection, the spark we once shared. I was terrified of losing him completely, so I began searching for solutions, desperate for a way to reconnect. That's when my best friend Olivia suggested we hire a nanny. "Grace, you and Alex need space to breathe again," she urged me gently over coffee one afternoon. "You can't reconnect if you're always tired or stressed. Hearing help doesn't make you a bad mom, it just makes you human." I resisted at first, guilt gnawing at me. Would Ava think we were replacing her? Would it somehow make me less of a mother? But Olivia was persistent. "Do it for your marriage, Grace. You deserve happiness too." Reluctantly, I brought up the idea to Alex later that evening. To my relief, he agreed immediately, seeming as desperate for relief as I was. "Honestly, Grace," he admitted softly, "I miss us too. We deserve to try something new." After weeks of interviewing various candidates, we finally met Sophia. She was young, only 24, but incredibly mature and professional for her age. Sophia was friendly and warm, with a sunny personality that Ava immediately adored. Her references were impeccable, and she had years of experience working with toddlers. Most importantly, she radiated a sense of calm confidence, reassuring us both instantly. We hired her on the spot, convinced she was exactly what we needed. Sophia quickly integrated herself into our lives, and for a brief period, everything seemed to improve dramatically. Ava was happier and calmer, Alex appeared less stressed, and I felt myself beginning to relax again. For the first time in years, Alex and I even planned a romantic weekend getaway, trusting Sophia completely to care for Ava while we reconnected. But little did I know, bringing Sophia into our home was the beginning of the end. It started subtly at first, so subtle I thought I was imagining it. Alex became noticeably more cheerful, returning home earlier from work, laughing more easily. At first, I attributed it to reduced stress, grateful that our lives were finally improving. But soon, I noticed something odd about the way he interacted with Sophia. They shared inside jokes I wasn't part of, lingering looks when they thought I wasn't paying attention. When I entered the room, their conversation stopped abruptly, leaving behind awkward silence and forced smiles. I tried to brush it off as paranoia or insecurity, but a nagging feeling persisted, whispering warnings I didn't want to hear. Then came the evening that changed everything. Alex had gone out with friends, leaving Sophia to watch Ava while I worked late in my office. Around midnight, I finally finished and decided to check on Ava before bed. As I passed by our bedroom, I noticed something shimmering on our white sheets, catching the faint moonlight filtering through the curtains. Curious, I stepped closer, heart quickening inexplicably. When I saw it clearly, my blood ran cold. It was a delicate gold earring, unmistakably Sophia's, the same one I'd complimented her on just a few days earlier. My stomach twisted violently as reality crashed down on me. The room spun, breathing became difficult. There was no innocent explanation, not for her earring in our bed, not for the sudden intimacy I'd sensed between them. The perfect nanny I'd hired to save my marriage was sleeping with my husband. The betrayal cut deep, tearing open wounds I never knew existed. Standing there alone, holding the tiny, devastating piece of evidence, I realized bitterly that I'd invited this heartbreak into our lives. And now, there was no turning back. I thought hearing a nanny would save my marriage, until I found her earring in our bed. I stood frozen in our dimly lit bedroom, Sophia's delicate golden earring trembling in my shaking hand. My pulse thundered in my ears as I desperately tried to rationalize it. Maybe there was an innocent explanation. Perhaps it had fallen off when she changed Ava's sheets or put away laundry. I clung fiercely to these possibilities, but deep down I knew they were lies. Sophia had no reason to enter our bedroom, let alone lie on our bed. My legs felt weak beneath me. I sank down onto the edge of the bed, my heart racing so fast I thought it might burst. Suddenly, every interaction between Alex and Sophia flashed through my mind like snapshots of betrayal. Their shared laughs, the way Alex's eyes brightened around her, the uncomfortable silences whenever I entered the room. I felt sick, dizzy with grief and anger. The room around me spun as I struggled to comprehend the magnitude of this discovery. But more than anything, I felt a deep, unbearable humiliation. I'd brought Sophia into our home myself. I'd trusted her completely, welcomed her warmly, and she'd repaid me by betraying me in the most personal, intimate way imaginable. Tears burned my eyes as I stared blankly at the bedroom floor. How had I been so blind? Had this been happening from the beginning, or had their relationship grown gradually? My thoughts spiraled uncontrollably, jumping between anger, self-blame, and pure disbelief. Suddenly, the soft click of the front door startled me from my thoughts. Alex was home. Panic surged through me, but I quickly wiped my tears, took a shaky breath, and prepared myself. I knew I had to confront him immediately. I couldn't bear the thought of spending even one night under the same roof without answers. Alex entered the bedroom, pausing abruptly when he saw me sitting rigidly on the bed, my eyes swollen and red. "Grace," he asked cautiously, voice filled with concern. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" For a moment, I simply stared at him, hopping against hope he'd deny everything convincingly enough to erase my doubts. But when my gaze fell upon his face, all I saw was nervous guilt masked behind forced calm. "Can you explain this?" My voice trembled as I held up Sophia's earring, the golden metal glinting accusingly under the bedroom light. Alex's face drained of color instantly. His eyes darted rapidly from the earring to me, panic briefly flashing across his face before he tried to mask it with confusion. "What's that?" he asked, attempting a casual tone that didn't fool either of us. "Don't play dumb, Alex," I whispered harshly, my voice breaking. "It's Sophia's earring, and you know exactly where I found it in our bed. So please, don't insult me by pretending you're confused." Alex opened his mouth, clearly scrambling for an explanation, but no words came out. The silence between us was deafening, filled only with the sound of our ragged breathing and my heart painfully thumping in my chest. "Grace, this isn't what you think." "No," I cut him off sharply, anger finally replacing my shock. "Then please enlighten me. Why is the nanny's earring in our bed? Tell me something, Alex, anything believable. He ran a hand anxiously through his hair, eyes fixed on the floor. It was just one time, he mumbled, his voice low and ashamed. His admission hit me like a physical blow. Just one time, as if minimizing it somehow made it acceptable. How could you? I whispered, voice trembling uncontrollably now. In our bed, Alex. The bed we share, the bed we created our daughter in. I'm sorry, he murmured weakly, stepping closer to me. I didn't plan this, it just happened. Sophia was always here, always so understanding and supportive. Understanding? My voice rose sharply, disbelief mixing with bitterness. Supportive? Is that really your justification? I hired her to save us, not destroy us. Alex's shoulders sagged in defeat. He knew he had no defense, no argument. He'd betrayed me in the worst possible way, and there was nothing he could say that would erase the truth of what he'd done. Grace, please, he pleaded softly. It was a terrible mistake. It meant nothing, I swear to you. You're the one I love. Don't say that, I whispered bitterly, turning my face away to hide fresh tears. You don't get to say that, not after what you've done. Silence filled the room again, broken only by my soft sobbing. Eventually, I forced myself to speak, my voice steady but hollow. I want you to leave tonight, I said quietly, unable to look at him. I need time to think, to understand what this means, but I can't do that with you here. Alex hesitated, desperation filling his eyes. Grace, please, we can fix this. Let me stay, let's talk. There's nothing left to say right now, I interrupted coldly, finally lifting my gaze to meet his. I can't even look at you, Alex. Please, just go. Slowly, painfully, he nodded, his expression a mix of shame and despair. He turned silently, gathering a few things quickly from the closet, avoiding my eyes as he moved past me and out of the bedroom. Moments later, the front door clicked shut softly, leaving me alone in the silence of our home, our broken home. As I sat there numbly gripping Sophia's earring so tightly it left marks in my palm, a deep, crushing realization settled over me. My marriage, the life I'd worked so hard to build, was collapsing beneath my feet, all because I'd trusted the wrong person. And worst of all, the betrayal wasn't even close to over yet. I spent that night in a state of raw shock, drifting between numb silence and uncontrollable weeping. At some point, I must have dozed off, because I woke in our rumpled bed to the muffled sound of Ava's laughter from the living room. My daughter, so innocent, so unaware of the chaos shattering our family, still needed breakfast, playtime, a routine. I pulled myself together, forcing my swollen eyes open and wiping away the crust of dried tears. Ava was my priority, no matter how devastated I felt. Peeling myself out of bed, I walked into the kitchen to find Sophia making pancakes while Ava sat at the table, coloring in a princess book. Sophia glanced at me with a bright, careful smile, one that faltered slightly when she noticed my tear-streaked face. "Good morning, Grace," she greeted softly. "I hope you don't mind, I started making breakfast. Ava was hungry." For a moment, I just stared at her, heart pounding in my ears. The nanny who had, according to Alex, only last night been in my bed, our bed, was now flipping pancakes like everything was normal. Furious resentment flared within me, and I had to physically grip the counter to keep from shouting. Ava was in the room, and she deserved none of this anger or confusion. "Thank you," I managed tersely, voice strained. I forced myself to look calm for my daughter's sake. I took a seat beside Ava, brushing her hair aside and dropping a gentle kiss on her head. She grinned up at me, her bright eyes warming my broken heart just a little. Sophia cleared her throat and continued cooking, clearly sensing tension but choosing to ignore it. "I can serve Ava if you'd like," she offered, as though everything were perfectly normal. My stomach twisted. The audacity of this woman, did she truly believe I didn't know what she'd done? "I'll take it from here," I said, my voice controlled but cold. "You can go, I'll handle breakfast." She hesitated, flipping the last pancake onto a plate. "Are you sure? I have no problem." "I said I'll take it from here," I repeated, more forcefully. Ava looked up, her small eyebrows knitting together in confusion at my tone. Sophia swallowed visibly. "All right," she murmured, putting down the spatula. "I'll just be in my room if you need anything." I watched her retreat, my mind a storm of conflicting emotions. Part of me wanted to confront her immediately, to scream at her for her betrayal. Another part was terrified of how Ava might react if she witnessed that confrontation. My daughter adored Sophia, or at least, she adored the fun, upbeat persona Sophia presented. The last thing I wanted was to subject a 3-year-old to a bitter argument she couldn't understand. But I also knew I couldn't go another moment pretending ignorance. I took a deep breath, trying to slow my racing heart. "Ava, sweetie," I said gently, stroking her hair, "Mommy has some grown-up business to handle for a bit. Why don't you watch your favorite cartoon in the living room?" She looked at me thoughtfully but nodded. "Okay, Mommy," she agreed, sliding down from her chair and toddling off, hugging her stuffed bunny tight. Once she was settled on the couch with the TV on low volume, I walked back to Sophia's room. My knuckles hovered before her closed door, uncertain. A war raged inside me, part intimidation, part fury, part devastating sadness. My mind replayed the memory of the earring, the conversation with Alex, the sleepless night. Gathering every scrap of courage, I knocked twice. "Come in," came Sophia's soft voice. I opened the door, stepping inside. The room was small and tidy, reflecting the same bright personality Sophia displayed: pastel pillows, colorful throws, a picture of her family on the dresser. She stood by the window, arms folded across her chest, face apprehensive as she took in my strained expression. "Grace," she started, "I can tell something is." "Stop," I said firmly, holding up a hand. My voice trembled slightly. "Don't insult my intelligence. I know about you and Alex." Sophia's cheeks flushed pink, her eyes darting away in shame. Her usual confident demeanor evaporated instantly. "Grace, I'm sorry." That simple phrase ignited my fury like a lit match in a room full of gasoline. My voice shook with anger, but I kept it low to avoid alarming Ava. "Sorry? You seduced my husband under my roof and you're sorry?" I hissed. She shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "It wasn't like that, I swear. I never planned." "Planned?" My bitter laugh came out more like a choke. "Of course you didn't plan this, because you and Alex only followed your impulses, right? You must have been so busy thinking of yourselves that you never once stopped to consider my feelings or Ava's well-being." "It was a mistake," Sophia whispered, voice trembling. "I care about you and Ava both. I never wanted to hurt you." "Then why did you do it?" I demanded, tears welling in my own eyes despite my best efforts to remain strong. "Was it all just fun to you? A thrill, sneaking around like that?" "No," she exclaimed, eyes pleading. I got caught up. It started so innocently. We were talking about how stressed Alex was, how tired you both seemed. So you took it upon yourself to provide him relief." I spat, biting off the words. She seemed to shrink, hugging herself tightly. "It was never supposed to happen, Grace. He was just so lonely and we got too close. One moment, we were talking late at night after Ava went to bed, and the next we." My hand shot up, halting her explanation. A nauseating mixture of heartbreak and disgust twisted my stomach. "That's enough. I don't want details." She nodded quickly, tears finally spilling onto her cheeks. "I understand." I pressed my lips together, trying desperately to steady my voice. "I don't know how I'm going to handle all of this yet, but I do know one thing: you can't stay here anymore." Sophia's eyes widened in alarm, fresh tears pouring. "Grace, please, this is my job, I need the money." I held up the earring, letting the faint morning light catch its surface. "You left this in my bed, Sophia, in my marriage bed, for God's sake. You've ruined every shred of trust or comfort we had under this roof. How can you possibly expect me to keep you here with Ava, day after day?" She opened her mouth, hesitated, then nodded miserably. "I understand if you want me gone, but please, at least give me some time to find another place. I don't have family here, and I can't just leave without somewhere to stay." I stared at her, fury battling with a reluctant empathy. She was the architect of my heartbreak, yet I couldn't banish the remnants of decency that told me leaving someone stranded on the street was too cruel, even for the person who had betrayed me. But I refused to let her near Ava unsupervised, not anymore. "You can stay," I said slowly, "but only for a few days. And you won't be alone with Ava. I'll arrange alternative childcare immediately. You can spend your remaining time here packing up, looking for a new place. Then you're gone." Sophia choked back a sob, nodding. "Thank you," she whispered, voice trembling. "I really am sorry, Grace." I shook my head. "Save it. I'm doing this for Ava, not for you." With that, I turned and left the room, my heart pounding out of my chest. Every cell in my body screamed to run, to escape the suffocating tension. But I had responsibilities, a daughter who relied on me, a business to manage, and a broken marriage demanding resolution. The following hours felt like a blur. I texted my mother, who lived only a few miles away, briefly explaining that I needed emergency childcare for Ava because the nanny situation wasn't working out. My mother, concerned but respectful, agreed without prying for details. I was grateful for her discretion. By mid-afternoon, Ava was happily settled at my parents' home, giggling with her grandparents. I felt a heavy weight lift from my chest. At least she was safe and oblivious to the disaster unfolding around her. That night, the house was eerily silent, lacking Ava's bedtime chatter. Sophia stayed in her room, presumably packing, and Alex was gone. He'd texted me multiple times, asking if we could talk, but I ignored him. Each ping of my phone made my heart lurch with a mix of longing and anger. Part of me wanted to hear him out, to unleash all my pain and fury in a single, scathing tirade. Another part of me couldn't bear to face the reality that maybe, just maybe, this was more than a one-night mistake. What if Alex had developed genuine feelings for Sophia? What if the man I loved was gone, replaced by someone who could betray me so easily? In the darkness of the living room, I sat alone on the couch, hugging my knees to my chest. My eyes were fixed on the blank TV screen, thoughts swirling like a storm inside my head. I felt numb, teetering on the edge between heartbreak and rage, as though one more push might send me spiraling out of control. Eventually, exhaustion won out, and I drifted into a fitful sleep right there on the couch. My dreams were plagued by images of Alex and Sophia laughing together, holding hands, sharing intimate moments that belonged to me. I woke several times, gasping for air, heart pounding, tears dampening my cheeks. Each time I woke, the house felt colder and emptier, as though the life we'd built was already a ghost lingering around me. My mind flashed back to the day I hired Sophia, the relief I'd felt believing she would help fix my marriage. The thought that I had unwittingly handed over the one thing I cherished most, my husband, my little family, felt like a punishment I might never recover from. Sometime past midnight, I realized the terrifying truth. My marriage might not survive this betrayal, and if it did, I wasn't sure I'd ever trust Alex the same way again. The next day, I told myself I would demand answers from him, lay down boundaries, and decide if there was any future left to salvage. But deep down, in the quiet darkness, a flicker of doubt had already taken root. Sometimes, when trust is shattered, no amount of apologies or explanations can rebuild the life you once had. The next morning, sunlight crept through the curtains far too early for my exhausted body. I stirred on the couch, my neck stiff and my eyes sore from crying. As my mind gradually cleared, I remembered the events of the previous day like a punch to the gut: Alex's confession, Sophia's tearful apology, and my own swirling heartbreak. With Ava temporarily at my parents' place, the house was strangely quiet, an unsettling silence that only amplified my loneliness. Normally, I'd hear the soft chatter of cartoons or the pitter-patter of little feet, but today, there was nothing. Even Sophia's bedroom door remained closed, no signs of movement from the person who'd invaded my life. Dragging myself to the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my face, hoping it might wash away the grief etched into my features. The mirror reflected a woman I barely recognized. Eyes puffy and rimmed with darkness, lips pressed in a tight line, worry creasing her forehead. The sparkle that once came from a life of shared dreams had been replaced by the weight of betrayal. A sudden urge to confront Alex seized me. I'd half expected him to return last night, banging on the door for another chance to talk. But he never came. My phone, however, showed multiple missed calls and messages from him. I scrolled through them numbly. Alex 1:13 a.m. Grace, please let me come back so we can talk. I'll stay on the couch if that's what you want. I just need you to hear me out. Alex 1:45 a.m. I'm worried about you. I'm at a motel. Please pick up. Alex 2:20 a.m. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to fix this. Call me when you're ready. A tightness constricted my chest. Part of me despised him for the betrayal, but another part, the one that still loved him, hated the idea of him in a dingy motel, alone and miserable. Yet no amount of pity could override my pain. I needed real answers, not just apologies. I texted him back. Me, 7:55 a.m. I'll meet you at the coffee shop near my studio at 9 a.m. 1 hour, no more. He responded within seconds. Alex, 7:56 a.m. Thank you, I'll be there. I felt shaky, my hands trembling as I set down my phone. 1,000 questions spun in my mind like leaves caught in a storm. Had this really been a single-night mistake, or had they been carrying on for weeks or even months? Why had he risked everything we had for a moment of passion? Was there something I'd missed? A sign, a warning, a clue that might have prevented this? Rather than overthinking, I forced myself to get dressed. I chose plain jeans and a loose sweater, lacking the energy or motivation to put on anything more polished. My reflection offered no comfort. The clothes hung awkwardly on my tired frame. Still, it was enough to step outside without drawing alarm from strangers. Before leaving, I tapped gently on Sophia's door. Her voice floated through, muffled and unsteady. Come in. She sat on the edge of her bed, surrounded by half-packed suitcases. She looked up as I entered, eyes puffy from crying. Clearly, I wasn't the only one who'd spent a sleepless night. I'm going to meet Alex, I said curtly, crossing my arms. I expect you to continue packing. Remember our agreement, just a few days, then you're gone. She swallowed hard and nodded, tears forming. I understand. A flash of guilt nudged at me, but I quickly suppressed it. Sophia had made her choices, and I owed her nothing. Without another word, I turned and left, relieved to shut the front door behind me and breathe in fresh air. The coffee shop was a cozy little place, full of warm lighting and rustic wooden decor. Normally, I loved starting my day here with a latte before heading to my design studio. But today, the inviting atmosphere felt suffocating, every cheerful detail mocking my internal despair. I spotted Alex immediately. He sat at a small corner table, fidgeting restlessly, eyes flicking toward the door every time it opened. He wore the same clothes as yesterday, slightly rumpled, and he looked as worn down as I felt. Dark circles under his eyes spoke of a man who'd slept even less than I had. The moment he saw me, he stood, looking desperate and relieved all at once. I hesitated at the threshold, heart pounding, wondering if I'd made a mistake by agreeing to this meeting. But I forced my feet to move forward, sliding into the chair opposite him without making eye contact. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. A waitress approached, but I waved her away, ignoring her polite smile. I couldn't handle pleasantries, not now. An awkward silence stretched between us. Finally, Alex cleared his throat. Grace, Tell me the truth, I blurted, surprising myself with the harshness of my tone. No more lying. Was it really just once, or have you been sneaking around behind my back for weeks? He flinched at the directness of my question, gaze dropping to the table. It wasn't weeks, he mumbled, but it wasn't just once. My stomach clenched, a twisted knot of pain and disgust. I'd known it, deep down, but hearing him confess was like a knife to the heart. How many times, Alex? I pressed, my voice trembling. He exhaled shakily, fingers raking through his hair. A few times over the last 2 weeks, he admitted, voice barely audible. It started one night after we argued, and I was frustrated. You were stressed about your business, I was buried at work, and then Sophia she listened. I shut my eyes, the wave of betrayal and self-blame threatening to drown me. Our marriage had indeed been strained, but this was no justification. And you thought hooking up with the nanny was a solution? I hissed, tears pricking my eyes. What was going through your mind, Alex? Did you think about me at all? He swallowed hard, eyes glistening. I hate myself for what I did, he whispered. I don't have a good reason. I was lonely and stupid, and she was there. It just happened. It didn't just happen, I snapped back, voice tight. You both made a conscious choice, repeatedly, and in our home, no less. Did you even consider how I'd feel if I found out? I considered it every time, he admitted, voice cracking. But I was in such a dark place, Grace. I felt like we'd lost the spark, that we were living parallel lives under the same roof. And Sophia was always cheerful, attentive. I pressed my trembling hands to my forehead, the anger in me flaring like a wildfire. So, it's my fault because I was too busy being a mom and running a business to dote on you. He shook his head furiously. No, that's not what I mean. I'm not blaming you, Grace, I swear. I'm trying to explain how I got so messed up. For a few seconds, I simply stared at him, tears burning. You got messed up, I echoed bitterly. Tell me, Alex, do you still have feelings for her? Is it more than just hooking up? No, he insisted, desperation in his eyes. It was never about love. It was attraction, a momentary escape. But I love you, I always have. My throat felt like it was closing up, tears threatening to spill over. You have a strange way of showing it, I muttered. Because you didn't just hurt me, you jeopardized our entire family. Ava will have to live with the fallout of this. He reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I pulled back immediately, repulsed by the thought of physical contact. Don't, I warned. He sighed, drawing his hand back to his lap. What can I do to fix this? He asked softly. I'll do anything, Grace. We can go to counseling, therapy, take a break, whatever you need. Fix this? A sad, bitter laugh escaped my lips. Do you really think we can go back to how things were before? Because I don't see how. My trust in you is gone. Every time I close my eyes, I see you in her. He winced, tears now openly rolling down his cheeks. I'm so sorry, he repeated helplessly. I wish I could take it all back. I'd give anything to erase the last few weeks. I stared at him, a storm of rage and heartbreak swirling inside me. Part of me wanted to believe we could rebuild from this wreckage. Another part wanted to toss him out of my life like garbage. And then there was the tiny voice reminding me of everything we'd shared, the years of love, the life we built, the child we adored. Could I really throw all that away? Finally, I forced a trembling sigh. I don't know, Alex. I just don't know. Right now, I can't even stand to look at you. I think we should separate for a while, at least until I can figure out what I want. He nodded slowly, tears still shining in his eyes. If that's what you need, I'll respect it, he whispered. I'll stay at a friend's place or keep the motel, whatever you want. Stay wherever you like, I said, voice hollow. But give me space. Don't come by the house unannounced. If you want to see Ava, text me first and we'll arrange something neutral. His lip quivered, but he accepted my words. All right, he said shakily. I understand. We rose from the table, the tension between us palpable. I saw the heartbreak in his eyes, but it couldn't match the devastation in mine. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Alex behind, tears streaking both our faces. Outside, the autumn breeze nipped at my cheeks. I felt dizzy, as though the world had shifted beneath my feet. People passed me on the sidewalk, talking, laughing, living their normal lives, oblivious to the drama unfolding inside me. My phone buzzed in my bag, probably Alex again, but I ignored it. Grief weighed on me like a boulder, yet behind the grief was a flicker of relief. We'd finally confronted the truth. There were no more lies, no more illusions. The question now was whether love could survive in the wake of such betrayal, or if some wounds simply cut too deep to heal. I don't remember driving back to the house. My mind blurred the journey with echoes of Alex's confession, his words looping over and over, punctuated by my own agonized questions. By the time I pulled into the driveway, my hands were shaking so badly that I had to sit with the engine off for several minutes, trying to calm myself. Inside, the house felt oppressively silent. I set my keys on the kitchen counter, noticing the half-finished plates from the morning. My appetite had vanished completely, replaced by a dull, unrelenting ache in my chest. I had no idea where Sophia was, packing, probably, but I felt an urgent need to talk to her again. Anger, confusion, and a strange compulsion to understand how she'd rationalized this betrayal churned in my belly. I found her in her room, slipping folded clothes into a suitcase. She looked up when I entered, and I saw the tension in her shoulders. Despite everything, she appeared genuinely miserable, red, puffy eyes, face pale with stress. "Grace," she said quietly, straightening, Did you speak to Alex?" "Yes," I replied flatly, folding my arms over my chest. "He told me everything, that this wasn't just one time but multiple times, over weeks." Sophia's eyes fluttered shut, fresh tears tracking down her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice trembling. "I wish I could take it back." "You can't," I stated coldly, stepping into the room. "I just want to know why. I hired you to help our family, to help me, and you repaid that by sneaking around with my husband. Did you ever think about the damage you were causing?" Her shoulders shook. "I hated myself every day, but she paused, wiping at her cheeks. "I got swept up. He was open with me about his loneliness, about how disconnected you both were. We'd talk late into the night. He was sweet, charming, and I started having feelings for him. And I thought maybe—" Her voice trailed off as she realized how wrong it all sounded out loud. "You thought maybe you stood a chance with him," I finished bitterly. "That you could fill a void in his life." She nodded, gaze downcast. "I know it sounds terrible and selfish, because it was, but I truly thought I was helping at first. Then it just escalated." My stomach churned with disgust. "Helping? By sleeping with him?" My voice was a poisonous hiss. "You helped by betraying me, by risking my daughter's family. If you wanted him so badly, why not just quit? Why stay in our house, pretend to be our nanny, and lie to my face every day?" She swallowed painfully. "Because I told myself it would stop. He kept saying it was a mistake, that he loved you, that he wanted to fix your marriage, and I believed him each time he said it was the last. But then, it wouldn't be the last." Something inside me snapped at that, a nauseating blend of fury and heartbreak. My nails bit into my palms. "So you're blaming Alex now?" I demanded, tears threatening again. "That he lured you in against your will?" Sophia shook her head. "No, we were both responsible. I won't shift the blame entirely onto him. I'm just telling you I never wanted to destroy your family. I know that probably means nothing after what I've done." I let out a bitter laugh. "You're right, it doesn't, because the damage is already done." My voice quivered as I recalled Alex's devastation, my own shock, and Ava's innocence in the middle of it all. "Do you realize my marriage may never recover? That my daughter might grow up with divorced parents? All because you two couldn't control yourselves." Her eyes filled with remorseful tears. "I'm so sorry, Grace. If there's anything I can do—" "Leave," I interjected, voice hoarse with emotion. "Leave as soon as you can. If you need money for a hotel or a bus, I'll lend it. But I can't have you here anymore. My mother is looking after Ava, and she'll stay there until you're gone." A heavy silence stretched, thick with unspoken guilt. Finally, Sophia nodded, lowering her gaze. "I'll find somewhere. I'll be gone by tomorrow. Thank you for not throwing me out on the streets." My throat tightened. "I'm not doing this for you," I said quietly. "I'm doing it for my own conscience. My marriage may be broken, but I won't become the monster who can't show a shred of mercy." Sophia broke down then, covering her face with her hands, muffling her sobs. For a moment, I watched her cry, this young woman I once trusted, feeling her regret too late to matter. I could have screamed at her, told her exactly what I thought of her tears. but I suddenly felt too drained to feed my anger any longer. I turned and left the room, letting her tears echo behind me. I spent the afternoon drifting aimlessly through the house. Every corner seemed haunted by memories, happy ones of Alex playing with Ava, late-night cuddles on the couch, jokes shared while cooking dinner. Now those memories felt tainted, overshadowed by betrayal. My phone buzzed periodically with calls from Alex, my mother, and a few worried friends. I ignored them all, needing space to breathe and think. At dusk, I ventured outside. The crisp autumn air nipped at my cheeks, the sky streaked with orange and pink. I hadn't realized how suffocating the house had become until I stepped into the open air. The cool breeze cleared my mind, if only for a moment. I took a long walk around the neighborhood. Everywhere, families were winding down, porch lights glowed, kids laughed in backyards, dogs barked for dinner. It stung, a painful reminder of the normalcy I'd lost. By the time I returned home, my feet ached and I felt a new wave of exhaustion. Inside, Sophia's bedroom door was closed, the light off. Hopefully, she was asleep or still packing. I had nothing more to say to her. I made my way into the living room, half expecting to find Alex there in the darkness, waiting to beg forgiveness. But of course he was. He promised me space after all. With a sigh, I collapsed onto the couch, hugging a throw pillow to my chest. My eyes settled on a framed photo perched on the mantel. Ava at her last birthday party, beaming in a cloud of pink balloons, Alex and I on either side with wide grins. We looked so happy then. Sometimes you never see the cracks forming until they split you open. A wave of sorrow washed over me, tears sliding silently down my cheeks. Ava deserved so much better. She deserved parents who were loving, united, a secure home. Instead, she was off at her grandparents', unknowingly waiting for a day when she might return to a house where her father no longer lived, or to parents no longer wearing wedding rings. Weariness eventually pulled me into a restless sleep. My dreams blended memories with nightmares, images of Alex with Sophia in my bed, Ava crying for me, the faint sound of a door slamming. I jerked awake several times, heart pounding, mind swirling with what-ifs and regrets. Around 3 a.m, I awoke to the sound of soft footsteps in the hallway. Instinctively, I stiffened, wondering who it could be, until I remembered Sophia still lived here for one more day. I hoped she wouldn't try to talk to me again. I had no energy left for confrontation. But the footsteps retreated toward the front door instead of my direction. Through the dim glow of streetlights filtering in, I heard a quiet click as the door unlocked. Anxiety fluttered in my stomach. Was Sophia leaving in the middle of the night, or was someone coming in? Adrenaline kicked in. I rose slowly, creeping to the hallway. My heart pounded as I peeked around the corner. Sure enough, the door was ajar, and I caught a glimpse of Sophia in a hoodie, dragging a suitcase onto the porch. She looked back into the house one last time, and though I couldn't see her face clearly, I sensed hesitation, regret. Then she gently shut the door behind her, and silence fell. I stood there in the darkness, arms wrapped tightly around myself, staring at the closed door. The wave of relief that washed over me was immediate, almost dizzying. She was gone. The source of my heartbreak, at least part of it, had left the house. I should have felt triumph or satisfaction, but instead I felt numb. Eventually, I locked the door and returned to the couch, too keyed up to sleep. My mind raced. Sophia was gone, but that didn't solve anything. My marriage was still in shambles. Ava's home was still broken, and I was left alone to pick up the pieces. At some point, I drifted into an uneasy sleep again, exhaustion finally overwhelming me. When I woke in the morning light, a single thought consumed my mind. Now what? The next few days passed in a fog. I contacted a different nanny service so I could bring Ava home without having to rely on friends or family. My mother hinted she knew something very serious had happened, but she respected my boundaries enough not to pry. I appreciated her discretion more than she knew. Alex kept texting, small messages like, "How are you?" or "Can we meet?" But I only responded when it concerned Ava, logistics about when he could see her, what time to pick her up or drop her off. Part of me felt guilty each time his face lit up at the sight of our daughter because I could tell how much he loved her. But I refused to let that overshadow the betrayal I was still grappling with. Sometimes I saw pain in his eyes when I opened the door, like a reflection of my own anguish, but I never invited him inside. We exchanged Ava's bag, said brief hellos, and avoided all personal talk. It was civil, but ice cold. I knew it hurt him, but it was the only way I could cope without breaking down. My work at the design studio was the only thing keeping me sane. I poured every ounce of my energy into new projects, staying late to finalize concepts and mock-ups. The quiet hum of creativity offered a reprieve from the chaos at home. But each time I drove back to the house, a sense of dread weighed me down. The rooms still felt haunted by memories, by the ghost of what had happened. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape the image of that single golden earring on my bed. On the fourth night after Sophia's departure, I came home late from the studio. Ava was already asleep. My new nanny, Carla, had put her to bed. Carla left as soon as I arrived, and I thanked her, grateful to have hired a professional with no personal ties. Alone in the living room, I stared at the photo on the mantel again, feeling the familiar ache. We'd been so happy. How had it all gone so wrong? I found myself pulling out my phone, reading the old texts from Alex I hadn't deleted or responded to. His guilt-ridden messages, his apologies, his pleas for another chance. My anger flared again, but so did something else, mourning for the love we once shared. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my hand. Alex's name popped up on the screen as if summoned by my thoughts. My heart skipped a beat. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello," my voice came out small, tight. "Grace," Alex breathed, relief evident. "Thank you for picking up. I know it's late, but can we talk? I miss you, I miss us." I closed my eyes, pressing my fingers to my temple. "I can't do this right now," I murmured. "Please," he begged quietly. 5 minutes, I'm parked outside." "You're what?" My eyes snapped open, alarmed. I walked to the window, peering out. Sure enough, Alex's car idled across the street, headlights off. My mind whirled between anger at his ambush and a painful longing to see him. "Just let me come in for a few minutes," he pleaded. "I won't fight. I just need to know if there's any hope at all." I hesitated, heart hammering, memories assaulting me. The day we exchanged vows, the day we brought Ava home from the hospital, the endless nights of laughter. And, unbidden, the vision of his betrayal with Sophia. "Okay," I whispered, my voice trembling despite my resolve. But only for a few minutes. My heart pounded as I opened the door. Alex stood on the porch, looking exhausted and defeated. He stepped inside slowly, like a man stepping onto a minefield. "Grace," he breathed, relief and sorrow swirling in his gaze. "Thank you." I shut the door behind him, folding my arms protectively. "What do you want, Alex?" He took a shaky breath, his eyes skimming over the living room as though recalling happier times. "I want to know if we can fix this," he confessed, voice raw. "Because I'm drowning out there, Grace, thinking I've lost you forever." A bitter laugh caught in my throat. "You didn't think about losing me while you were messing around with Sophia, did you?" He flinched, nodding slowly. "I deserve that," he murmured. "And no, I wasn't thinking clearly. I'm not proud of who I became." I studied him, seeing the regret etched into every line of his face. The problem was that regret alone might not be enough. "Why now?" I asked quietly. "Why do you suddenly realize you need me back?" "I've known it all along," he said, voice trembling. "But I was too selfish, too caught up in my own misery to stop myself. And when you found that earring, I realized how much I'd broken us. There's no excuse, Grace. I just want to make things right if you'll let me." Tears pricked my eyes. "And how exactly do you plan to do that? You can't undo what happened." "I know," he whispered, "but I can be better. I can go to counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. I'll do whatever you want, move mountains if I have to, just don't shut me out." Silence pressed down on us. In the corner, the digital clock ticked away the seconds. I felt torn between two warring forces, the betrayal that demanded justice and the love that yearned for healing. "Give me time," I finally said, my voice cracking. "I can't just forget. I'm not even sure I can forgive. But if there's a chance, we need help, professional help. It can't just be an apology." Hope flickered in his eyes. "Whatever you need, I'll do it." I nodded slowly, tears slipping down my cheeks again. "Then we start with counseling. And I want you to stay away from this house for now. Let me have space. You can see Ava, but not here. I'm not ready to welcome you back in." He nodded fervently, stepping forward cautiously. "Thank you," he breathed. He seemed like he wanted to hug me, but he stopped himself, clearly sensing I wouldn't welcome it. We stood there in the tense silence, a tiny spark of possibility glowing amidst the wreckage of our marriage. For the first time, I allowed myself a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find a path forward, though I still feared it was too late. Eventually, Alex left, promising to set up counseling sessions. I shut the door behind him, heart pounding, tears freely flowing once more. I had no idea if we were doing the right thing, whether this attempt at fixing what had been broken was destined to fail. But I owed it to myself, to our family, to try, even if the road back would be long and painful. I sank onto the couch again, arms wrapped around my trembling body, thoughts spinning. There was no quick fix, no easy resolution to betrayal. But maybe, in facing the devastation head-on, we could find a flicker of light in the darkness. I wish I could say that counseling fixed everything in a matter of weeks, that Alex and I went to a few sessions, talked through our problems, and came out stronger than ever. But the reality was far messier, and the road to whatever future awaited us was paved with doubt, anger, and heartbreak. Still, I kept my word. We found a reputable marriage counselor, Dr. Morales, who specialized in infidelity and relationship trauma. The first session was excruciating. I sat on one side of the couch, arms crossed protectively, while Alex perched on the other, hunched over with guilt. Dr. Morales asked gentle but probing questions about what had happened, and each time Alex repeated his story, each time I was forced to describe my pain, it felt like tearing open a fresh wound. Yet in the midst of that anguish, something else emerged: honesty. Raw, unfiltered honesty about our neglected relationship, our communication failures, and the resentment that had quietly festered beneath the surface. Neither of us shied away from the ugliness of it all. If anything, we laid it out in its most brutal form, hopping to purge the poison from our marriage. Week by week, session by session, we dug deeper. Some days, I left Dr. Morales's office feeling hollow and defeated, convinced we'd never recover. Other times, I felt a glimmer of hope, a reminder of why I fell in love with Alex in the first place and why part of me still believed in what we had. We talked about Ava constantly, her bright smile and gentle spirit serving as both a motivation to keep trying and a painful reminder of what we risked losing. At home, Alex continued respecting my boundaries. He stayed elsewhere, only coming by to pick up Ava for visits. Eventually, at Dr. Morales's suggestion, we began having brief family moments, an afternoon outing to the park or a movie, always in public spaces, where tension was less likely to explode. Those moments were awkward at first, but Ava's joy bridged some of the distance between us. She was too young to understand, but somehow, she sensed that Mommy and Daddy needed her innocence and laughter as a reminder of what mattered most. I couldn't bring myself to remove our family photos from the walls. Sometimes, I'd catch Alex pausing to look at them during a drop-off or pickup, and the remorse in his eyes would pull painfully at my heart. I wanted to hate him, and some days I did, but there was no escaping the years of love we shared, or the fact that he was still Ava's father. Sophia never returned. I didn't keep tabs on her. I only knew from a mutual acquaintance that she ended up moving across the city, taking a job in a restaurant. Occasionally, a pang of bitterness struck me when I thought about her, but I worked hard in therapy to let go. She was a symptom of a deeper issue, not the sole cause. Holding on to hatred for her would only chain me to the past. Over time, Alex and I moved from barely speaking to tentative, civil conversations. Then, slowly, we began revisiting the things that made us click in the first place: common interests, inside jokes, dreams for the future. Our counselor insisted that we focus on rebuilding the foundation of friendship before even thinking about romance. It was painful to accept that we couldn't simply pick up where we left off. Trust had to be earned, step by slow step. There were setbacks, of course. Sometimes I'd have nightmares about Alex and Sophia, waking up drenched in sweat, tears streaming down my face. On those days, I wanted to lash out to push Alex away. I'd question whether I was strong or foolish for staying. I remember one night in particular when I was up past midnight, scrolling through old photos on my phone, our wedding day, the honeymoon, Ava's birth. My heart felt like it was splitting. I texted Alex in a moment of weakness. Me 12:31 a.m. Do you still think about her? He responded almost immediately. Alex 12:32 a.m. No, I only think about you and Ava, and how much I want to fix this. It wasn't enough to erase my fears, but it reminded me that healing was a choice we had to make daily. And I kept choosing to try. About 3 months after we started therapy, Dr. Morales suggested a short getaway, a low-pressure environment, she called it, where Alex and I could focus on rebuilding connection without the heaviness of everyday life. I was skeptical, but we arranged for Ava to stay with my parents for the weekend and booked a small cabin near a lake, a couple hours away. We drove separately. I needed that physical and emotional space. When we arrived, the air felt different. No suffocating reminders of Sophia or the betrayal. For 2 days, we walked around the lake, cooked simple meals, and talked about everything except our trauma. Instead, we shared memories of early dating, laughed about the disasters of being broke college kids, and marveled at how life had changed. There was a cautious intimacy, like we were rediscovering each other as strangers who also happened to share a history. On the last night, as we sat by the fireplace, Alex reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. His voice trembled with raw emotion. "Thank you for giving me another chance," he said, eyes brimming with tears. "I know I don't deserve it, but I'm so grateful you're here." I didn't answer right away, my heart twisting with a familiar ache. "I'm not doing it just for you," I said, voice soft. "I'm doing it for me, for Ava, and for the life we dreamed of before everything fell apart." He squeezed my hand gently. "I promise I won't betray your trust again. Whatever it takes, I'll do it." I studied his face, seeing the deep remorse, the love, the sincerity. "I know you'll try," I whispered. "We both will." We kissed, hesitantly at first, as though testing fragile ground beneath our feet. The warmth of the fire and the press of his lips against mine felt both familiar and new, a reminder of what once was, and a spark of what might still be. When we returned home, we kept going to therapy every week. We slowly reintroduced Alex to the house, not to move back in immediately, but to spend more time with Ava in a setting that felt like home. I set clear boundaries about intimacy. I wasn't ready to share a bed with him yet. Alex respected that, never pushing for more than I could give. It was a stark contrast to the man who had once been unfaithful, a sign, perhaps, that he'd truly learned from his mistakes. Months turned into half a year, then a bit longer. By the time we neared the 1-year mark of finding Sophia's earring in my bed, I'd started seeing real changes in Alex. He was present, communicative, and most importantly, honest, even about things he knew might upset me. He checked in with me emotionally, asking how I was handling triggers or memories. He reassured me time and again that he had no contact with Sophia, and I believed him. My skepticism gradually eased. That's not to say everything was perfect. Trust is fragile once broken, and sometimes the smallest thing, a stray mention of Nanny's, an odd look on Alex's face, could send me spiraling into doubt. But each time, Alex steadied me, reminding me of the promises we made and the progress we'd fought so hard to achieve. Finally, one evening, I made a quiet decision. I texted Alex to come over after Ava's bedtime. He arrived, anxious and hopeful, waiting in the living room. I emerged from the bedroom with trembling hands, holding a small box. Confusion flickered in his eyes as he recognized it, our wedding mementos, the ones I'd tucked away in anger after discovering his affair. I opened the box, revealing our wedding rings and some photographs from that day. We've come a long way, I said, voice soft and wavering with emotion. Longer than I ever thought we could. Alex nodded, his throat working as he tried to speak. Grace. I'm not saying everything is back to normal, I continued, tears gathering in my eyes. Because I don't think we'll ever be exactly who we were, but I'm ready to let go of some of this hurt, to take another step. He watched in breathless silence as I took our rings from the box. They glinted faintly under the living room lamp, symbols of a vow we once broke but now strove to rebuild. Gently, I slipped mine onto my finger, heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. Then I held out Alex's ring. His eyes shone with tears as he took it. For a moment, he just stared at the simple band before sliding it onto his hand. Thank you, he whispered, voice breaking. I swear, Grace, I won't take this for granted again. We stood there, crying softly, our fingers laced together, rings in place. For the first time since the betrayal, I felt a fragile peace settle over me, a sense that we were choosing each other once more. Not out of blind trust or naive love, but out of a mutual commitment to do better, to be better. Of course, real life continued. There were still disagreements, stressful work days, and Ava's boundless energy to handle. Our relationship was never magically free of tension. Healing doesn't erase normal marital challenges. But there was a sense of unity we'd lost before, an awareness that we had nearly lost everything and didn't want to risk that again. When my mother noticed the ring back on my finger a few days later, she didn't pry. She just smiled quietly, nodded, and changed the subject to Ava's latest adorable antics. It was her way of saying she supported me, no matter what path I chose. It's been over a year now since I first found Sophia's earring in our bed. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel a pang of dread, recalling the betrayal, the heartbreak. But each time it surges, I remind myself of how far Alex and I have come. We aren't the same people we were before, and our marriage isn't the same. There are scars left behind, ones that may never fully fade. But those scars are reminders of both our mistakes and our resilience. We chose to rebuild. It isn't a story of romantic perfection or a guarantee of a happily ever after. It's a story of two flawed people who nearly destroyed what they had, then fought desperately to salvage it. And in that fight, we discovered layers of strength, vulnerability, and honesty we'd never reached before. Looking back, I understand that hearing a nanny wasn't the mistake. Ignoring the cracks in our relationship was. Sophia just magnified the problems we refused to face. In a painfully ironic way, her betrayal forced us to confront our issues head-on, to reevaluate what truly mattered. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's that love requires tending. It's not enough to rely on old sparks and fond memories. You have to keep the flame alive with communication, respect, and genuine effort. The moment you let that flame dwindle, anything, a stressful job, a charming stranger, a moment of weakness, can set off an explosion that tears everything apart. I thought hearing a nanny would save my marriage, until I found her earring in our bed. But in the end, it wasn't the nanny who saved or destroyed us. It was our decision, to either let betrayal define our ending or to fight for a new beginning. We chose to fight,